Why do white people resent Black excellence? Let's talk about it. Not all white people are racist, obviously, but there is a specific subset for whom Black excellence seems like a personal affront to them, right? It really bothers them when Black people succeed. The 13th Amendment emancipated enslaved Black Americans in 1865, and then the Jim Crow laws kind of wrapped up with the passing of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. So if we do the math, that's about 61 years in which Black Americans were able to strive for success in any sort of meaningful way without like the constraints of the law pulling them down. 61 years. If we compare that to white Americans who besieged a land already owned and occupied by indigenous Americans, we'll put that around 1620 when, the Mayflower came here, then that gives them about 425 years to establish success in this country. 425 versus 61. If we compare those two fundamentally very different time spans, like how much did white Americans actually do in all of that time? If we are to compare even the poorest and most underprivileged of white America to Black America generally, it is clear that white Americans are born way past the start line, right? By that I mean, by like nature of being white in American society, you do benefit from all sorts of privileges. And like, to be frank, you're not exhausted by the horrible experience of facing racism on a daily basis, right? You do have a ton of privileges. So I imagine existing in this bubble of privilege that you like totally deny, the existence of Black people for whom success is like second nature when it comes so easily and so readily, even though you've only had 61 years to achieve it, I imagine that's exhausting and frustrating. I imagine it makes people feel super, super inferior and hurts certain people's tiny, tiny little egos. And what do they blame that deep, deep psychic pain on? Well, of course, DEI and critical race theory and affirmative action. So I guess the question is, what might help those white Americans who just so strongly detest Black excellence? Like, what will help you? And for that, I would suggest like a lot of therapy, like a ton of therapy. And I would also just suggest that we open the schools, right? We teach people history. Yeah, maybe? Okay, bye!
So, as of yesterday, I recorded a video that I didn't know how it was going to be received, but as of today, the video has went viral with thousands of shares, and it's reached people outside of America. It has reached people from Germany. It's reached people from the UK. It's reached people from Africa. It's reached people all the way to Australia. And I just want to encourage anyone watching, that's the power of using your voice. And so, but today's video is going to make a lot of people very, very uncomfortable, especially if you're white. Because white people are not off of the hook. Because moments like this, white people get let off the hook because they posted a picture or they used to.
Okay, sorry I look like this. I'm actually in the middle of moving to Norway. But I have something to say to any white people watching. Of course you're uncomfortable. Guilt is one of the most uncomfortable feelings ever. Now, you don't have to feel guilty because you were never the one oppressing. You've been not racist, you've been equal, you've been open. But as a race, we are guilty. Not as individuals necessarily. But let's look at our discomfort and our guilt as taking off a band-aid or a plaster. If you're taking it off and halfway through it's too painful, you don't put it back on. You keep going. Wounds won't heal by neglecting them. So if you're feeling uncomfortable, you're feeling guilty, it will feel like that. Keep pushing. Imagine what people of color feel.
White people, I keep getting this comment right here. So my question is this: do y'all look at all Black people as the same? And I want to ask y'all, I don't want to hear from nobody else but y'all. Like I said, I don't know what Hulk Hogan did. I don't know. And I don't care what he did because he wasn't never my favorite wrestler. I always liked the Kane and Undertaker. What I'm asking is, do y'all look at every Black person and be like, yeah, I don't like them, I don't like him, or I don't like that type? Or y'all just don't like Black people at all? Like I said, it's no hard feeling. It's just me asking a simple question. Because me personally, I don't feel like y'all dislike us. I feel like y'all dislike a certain kind.
Instead of confronting the problems in their community, they immediately go to Black people. You pivoting to Black people. You understand what I'm saying? See, that's why I don't like to hear no talk from other groups, other immigrants. No, notice they didn't pivot to Hispanics. They didn't pivot to Asians. That's why all that people of color crap and all this other groups need to do this and that. No, they pivot immediately to Black people. They didn't pivot to Africans. They didn't pivot to Caribbeans. Immediately pivot to us. That's what they do. They never want to confront their issues. And that alone, not confronting their issues, is what they're talking about. Their numbers. That's what's getting rid of your numbers, is you not confronting your issues. They were talking very, very greasy before this guy was captured. Now, since he's captured, all their conversation got different now. Trump was talking about radical left and all, but Trump was just going in about that. Right? Then they capture him and they like, oh, well, you know, I mean, this is sad. I'm like, what I'm learning about, well, I have learned about that culture. They have a rule. It don't matter what horrific thing that they do, you do not openly condemn it. You don't. It don't matter who you do it to, who they do it to. And a lot of them like Charlie Kirk. I would think that they would really be just on the same energy. Why you turn the energy to black people when you should be turning it to your own community and say, wait a minute, hold on. What are we doing in this community? Why are we doing all this? It's no discussion.
But I have to say, the strongest magic white folks used on black folks was telling us that our indigenous spirituality and cosmology was demonic. That has to be the strongest magic that white folks used on our ancestors. And of course, it didn't work on all of our ancestors because the beautiful spirituality of hoodoo existed and still continues to exist. But even up until this point, even right now, 2025, most black folks still believe that their indigenous African spirituality and cosmology, they believe right now that hoodoo is demonic. And that is, my folks, the strongest, most powerful magic white folk have ever used on black folk all around the world and here in the United States as well. Keep the faith. Ise, Ashe, Ayibobo. Peace.
You see what they're doing in Texas? What they're doing in Texas is Donald Trump told Texas and Mr. Hot Wheels Greg Abbott to give him some more Republican congressional seats because his Republican people are reading the tea leaves and he's going to get shellacked in the upcoming midterms. That's what all the indicators look like right now. And so they're afraid of losing power. He's afraid of not being able to get his stuff through Congress. And he's afraid of impeachment and all these things. And so he told Texas, look, you're big and you talk a tough game, but I know you guys are lackeys to me. So get me some congressional seats. And Texas said, OK, we're going to do it. And they've gerrymandered and carved up the state of Texas to flip 5 Democratic congressional districts and turn them red. And that would, in theory, help Trump hold on to power and gain more power in Congress. Now, let me see, California, Illinois, and a couple other blue states said, well, if you do that, then we're going to do that. And California in particular can carve up this state so Republicans have even less power than they have now. So anyway, here's where American history always comes back. It always comes back. Because after the Civil War, during that tiny little period of Reconstruction, what was it, 10, 12 years, black people gained political power. We were a couple of mayors, we had people in Congress, and we exercised our rights under the Constitution. And the Confederate people and the racists and white supremacists said, this is going too far, strip it all away. They kicked us out of office, they burned our towns, they killed our mayors, everything. They stopped us from being able to vote, and then we had 100 years of Jim Crow segregation. So everything Donald Trump and Republicans are doing now harken back to that, because the whole idea about districting Texas is just about stealing black political power. That's it. And it all goes back to Barack Obama. Because listen, the majority of white voters vote Republican and have since the 60s, since the civil rights, right? Those two things are connected. The majority of white people vote Republican and have since the civil rights. And the majority of white voters in America love American-style democracy only up until the point where a black man was in charge of it. That's it. And ever since then, we've been when he got elected in 2008, we're going on 20 years, we've been in a 20-year downward spiral. that was stopped a little bit by Biden and Harris. But even Harris getting so close, they don't want that. They don't want black people to have power in this country. And all of their moves, going back to Barack Obama in 2008, Barack Obama in 2012, stopping Hillary. Don't forget, Hillary got and was still very popular among black people, particularly black women. And then we got Kamala in there as the number 2 to Biden. And look, a lot of people say she won. I'm just going to deal with the reality is right now that she lost, and that was cutting it too close. And so they're doing everything they can to make sure that black people never have that kind of power again. That's why they're going after Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown. That's why. It's to get black people out of political power and make sure that there's never another Barack Obama, there's never another Kamala Harris. That's all it is. That is all they're doing right now. And so what Democrats have to do in the states with congressional power is if Texas does 5, then combined the Democrats need to do about 15. It does. If they take 10, you take 20. So you have to, and when a bully threatens you and shoves you in the shoulder, you put them on the ground. That's what they need to do. So again, the story is that once again, Republicans are systematically going after black power, and they're doing it to protect Donald Trump and other white supremacists.
Come to my comment section to see white people fight for the right to remain violent towards black people, and we stay silent.
You're in? Okay, good. Here we go. If you guys want to have jokes for days, like just crack up, you need to come to my comment section, particularly when I'm speaking about Mzungus and their behavior. You will see them in that comment section fighting for the right to be racist. And they do it on fake accounts. It's hilarious. Like they get so wound up with my videos, and all my videos talk about is their behavior. And then they come to the comment section and do said behavior that I'm speaking about. So yes, if you want to have a good old, see what I'm talking about, come to my comment section, because it's always buzzing. And I forever love when the black people go in there and just drop their one-liners. Boom. The anger of white people to black people is that they want the right. They want to remain to have the right in law and society and our environment to remain violent towards us. That's really what the problem is. They are fighting for the right to remain violent towards us, and us say nothing about it. That is why they are angry with the videos I make. That is what they're fighting for. And they come to the comment section to do. You see, in politics with Donald Trump right now, they want the right to abuse black people, and black people say nothing about it. That is that is the proudness they want to keep. And yeah, I'll be on this hill by myself if I must. Yeah. So no thanks. Back to sender.
Every time racist people bring up the violence or crime rates in the black community, I always like to remind them of who's committing the most CSAM crimes. And if you don't know what CSAM stands for, it means child sexual abuse material. And I need people to understand there is a reason why people who are pedophiles or pedophiles get such short time, but somebody who is on drugs or sold drugs gets such an exorbitant amount of drugs, because there was this idea that the selling drugs or doing drugs at one point in time only affected black people. But when they started to see how many white people it was affecting, that's when they started decriminalizing it. It's the same thing with pedophiles. Most of the pedophiles or the CSAM people who are committing those crimes, what color are they? That's why they get such a short amount of time. And yes, violent crime is bad, but to me, committing violent crimes or crimes against children is one of the worst possible things that you can do. So I always bring that up every time they talk about, oh, your community has all this crime. I'm like, well, your community has all this CSAM that y'all decriminalize, and on top of decriminalizing it, they have private prisons, but they're not able to put people in the private prisons like they used to because I believe the crime rates are going down. But one girl said if they actually started filling the prisons up with people who committed CSAM and pedophiles against children, who do you think would be filling these prisons? White men. Why do you think for a lot of grape kits that they don't test them? I've heard of grape kits just sitting there for years. Who do you think it's going to come out the assailants were of the grape victims if they actually really started testing these grape kits? What color do you think they're going to be? Probably white men. That's why they don't test it. They don't want to put their own behind bars, and chances are a lot of these white men in positions of power have done those things. So next time somebody talks about the violent crime rates, you better talk about the CSAM. You better talk about the things that they do to children.
Hi guys, welcome back once again to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're doing fine whenever you are, and in today's clip all the credit goes to the original creator of the video. Okay guys, white folks and white farmers are so worried and confused. Why do black people and black farmers ain't complaining about the new current economy or how the America is falling apart? And they are so much furious to black people because of how they ain't complaining about the current new economy, of how a lot of people they are really crying out of help because of how the economy of America it has really risen up, and because of how the cost of living just risen up. And white people really expected that if they are really crying, also black people should cry because they are living in the same country. But one thing I really know about our black folks or our black brothers is that black people they have been through this for a very long period of time, but they haven't complained and they are used to this. And another thing is that the reason why maybe black people ain't complaining or they are not being bothered of how America is falling apart is because these people, when they were voting, a lot of black people really came out in large number and they really want them, but they didn't listen. Just because these people, one problem they did is that they voted against their own interest. They voted so that to punish black people, they voted to punish immigrants, they voted to punish Latino. But right now we have all seen how Trump new administration is just affecting everybody that's living in America. It doesn't care whether you are black, it doesn't care whether you are white, it doesn't care whether you're Latino. It's just affecting everyone. And this is the reason why these people they're really crying out for help, because of how black people they ain't complaining. And a lot of white folks, especially white farmers, they're really losing their farms, they're going bankrupt. I really know you have known the story of those soybeans farmers who are living in America. They are right now complaining of how they ain't selling soybeans to China because Argentina took over the deal. Also Brazil, they want to take over. And we've all seen how President Donald Trump has really bailed out other farmers from other countries, and the farmers they're so furious because at this point they just want the government to bail them out. They want socialism, but whenever other people really came out in large number and they wanted such a thing, but these farmers came out and they told these people, we can't do that, our government can't do that. What you can do is just work very hard and pull out your bootstrap. So these people are the ones who didn't want other people to be helped, but right now they are really crying out for help, they are really crying out for bailout. So one thing these people they should just know is that never vote maybe to hurt your brother or your sister. Never vote so that at least you can make another person to suffer. Never vote so at least maybe you can think maybe you are voting so that at least you can be favored, because we all know when Trump was doing his campaign, he really promised these people a lot of things. He promised he will make the food price of product to reduce. He promised he will make America greater once again. He promised he will reduce tariffs. He promised he will take care of all farmers that are living in America. And these farmers really went ahead and they really voted for President Trump. And right now we are all seeing how they are really crying out for help. And these people, the last time we do remember very well when Trump was president, a lot of farmers, almost 1,000 farmers, they really lost their farms. When President Donald Trump, the same things really happened, but they really went ahead and they voted for the same mistake, and other people really came out in large number and said that if these people can be given another chance, they can still vote for President Donald Trump for the first time, because this is the third time these people are really voting for this orange man, but it seems like they didn't learn their lesson. So right now, black people, they ain't complaining about anything. Black people, they have just relaxed. They're just seeing of how things they are really going in America, because they have been through this for a very long period of time. They have been through this pain for a very long period of time, and no one really came out to help them. No one really came out to stand with them. They just pray to God and they stand on their own. And we have all seen how they have really improved on their lifestyle. We have all seen how America thinks they have really changed a lot, especially this racism. And this is the time these people should just realize that racism is so expensive, because we have all seen how racism it has really cost them, just because of them maybe voting for the person who was different color, for them not voting for the person who don't have the same skin color like them. They are now going through a lot, because we do remember all black people really voted for these people to stay in business, but they thought that maybe black, they ain't doing the right thing. Right now we have all seen how who is crying. So guys, this video is just for educational purpose. We're just here to learn, and just remember that racism is so expensive. Never vote maybe to hurt your own brother or your sister. And guys, if it was the first time I come across my video, don't forget to like this video, subscribe and share. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you whenever you are. One love.